Anything there? Has anyone joined us? I have no idea.
I don't think it's on yet. Oh wait, hang on.
You got
It
it.
is.
You got it. Oh, nice.
Got it.
What I'll
It's
do is
working now.
I'll crop this bit off once we finish.
Yeah.
That definitely needs cropping off. Um, so yeah, thank you for joining me, Erin. First of all, congratulations for graduating. You're waiting for your new job to come and start in
Yep.
September, right? So where have you got as your place?
So I'm originally from Northern Ireland, as I'm sure you can tell by my lovely accent,
Yeah.
and I hope this video has subtitles on it as well. But I was so desperate to come home for foundation year because I've been away for so long. And obviously, like coming home the odd weekend here and there just doesn't really cut it after a while. So I got my first choice, which I was so delighted about. So I've got the Northern Ireland scheme for foundation year,
Mm.
and my practice, I've got to visit it just 2 weeks ago there. And it's about 20 minutes from my house, so I'm very excited for that. So I get to stay at home. I'm
That's
very
perfect. Yeah.
happy. Yeah,
Um, I kind of agree.
it's just what I wanted.
I think going into like a new year where you've got to do a lot of work and stuff, I think it's great to do it at home because
Yeah,
it is not an easy year. You know, you're going to be like doing things you've not done before. You're going to be trying to find your way as a dentist, and doing it where you've got support network at home
hmm
is really, really useful. I certainly found that anyway.
Did you stay at home then for yours as well?
I was close-ish to home. I actually had to live out, but by the end of the year, I stopped staying in the place that I was, and I was doing an hour's commute there and back, just because it was,
Right.
you get home cooked foods. There's people about,
Yeah.
and the place I was
Yeah.
in was a little bit rural, so it wasn't my kind of an area. There wasn't many people that I knew, so I felt it was best to, at that point, like just take the hit and get up at like half an hour, 40 minutes earlier than I was previously, and just drive it. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely worth it for the extra like comfort and just having your family around and stuff like that.
yeah, I think that's key. And then obviously you've got, if you're back in home, you've got all your friends around, so it was better that way for me. Um,
Yeah.
I think you probably found the same because you've been away for what, 10 years? Is that right?
Yeah, 10 years altogether. So obviously like I've been home in that time, but not for like any kind of extended period of time or any sort of permanent basis. So I'm very excited. As obviously like we had lockdown, so that day that was like the middle of March,
Yeah.
and we were like due to stay on in uni for like another 3 months. So as much as I was super excited to come home and like that's what I really really wanted, it started like a little bit earlier than I had anticipated. And I was a bit worried that like I don't know, maybe my parents were gonna hate having me home all the time, and they'd be like, "No, you can't live here." So thankfully we all survived that, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to next year.
Yeah, I think it's probably just a bit of a getting used to it, having some extra bodies in the house. But I'm
Yeah,
sure they're happy to have you back because I think
yeah,
parents kind of eventually they'll miss you, because you'll eventually move on again probably, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, I wish you could have stayed a bit longer. Um,
yeah, exactly.
I think we'll just tell the guys quickly a little rundown of what we had planned for today.
Yep.
Um, so you've obviously done a couple of degrees.
I have.
So we were going to talk a little bit about each kind of how different cities compared, the journey of getting into dental school, what dental school was like, and then a bit about social media after as well. Because we have kind of like the opposite journey, but ended up in the same place almost.
Yeah,
Um, because you found it a bit harder to get into uni. You went for a bit of a longer route, and I took a
yeah,
bit of a longer route within uni. So
right.
we can cover both kind of spots there, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Like a lot of people put so much emphasis on getting into dentistry,
yeah.
and like obviously as you said, like for me that was like a longer process, and that was like a very difficult process to get through because there was so many bumps in the road. But I don't know, I always kind of probably very naively felt like once I get into dentistry everything's going to be smooth sailing from then on in, and obviously that's like, you're just starting the real theme park then, and
Yeah.
it's not going to get much easier from there on in. Um, but yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, I think. Why did you want to do dentistry initially? And like, Did you know before you did your first degree that you wanted to do dentistry, or was it like an evolution of going, oh, I'll go to uni and see if I would find out what I like in that kind of a way, or how did it go down?
So when I was in school, I actually really wanted to do medicine, and I had all my, I'll have to do this, reasons for wanting to do medicine,
Yeah,
which at the time I thought were quite valid. Like I wanted to be a superhero and fix everyone and take people out of pain, but also like definitely work 9 to 5, but also work in like maybe surgery. And I really like Grey's Anatomy, and that's what I based my entire like wanting to do medicine on, like that one TV show.
yeah,
And it was a blessing in disguise that I did not get into medicine, because now looking back, like that would just be the worst career for me in every way. Like it doesn't suit the kind of lifestyle I want, like to have any kind of balance. And you definitely can't always save everyone, you can't always be the superhero. So I didn't get my A levels, and I was like, right, I'm gonna do graduate entry into medicine after biomed.
yeah,
And there was like all the discussions at the time, I think, was like people said like you can take a year, reset some of your A levels, but a lot of the medical schools actually said they wanted A levels over a 2 year period. So I wouldn't have been able to like reset some exams, like I would have had to like go back into lower sixth again. And at that time, like that just wasn't an option to me. I was like, no, all my friends are going to uni. This is like the next step. I'm so ready to leave school.
yeah.
It's just time to move on. So then I went to biomed. I went to do biomed in Liverpool, which I loved. I really enjoyed like getting to live in Liverpool. It's a great city. And again, like I never would have got that opportunity. I never would have lived there if I had got into medicine. And it was only really through the 3 years in Liverpool. I feel like not everyone, but I would say maybe 80 to 90% of people on my biomed course had exactly the same story as me. Like they wanted to do medicine or dentistry or something else in
Mm.
healthcare and didn't quite get the grades, ended up there. And through those 3 years, I, I did more work experience with loads of doctors who were saying to me, like, if I could advise you, I would say maybe don't do this. It might not be for you. Have you ever considered dentistry? And at the time, I was like, dentistry is like disgusting. You're just looking into people's mouths all day. Like, why would anyone want to do that? And then they were like, well, as a doctor, you're going to have to see a lot of more disgusting things. So,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
yeah, so you have to weigh these things up. So I did a bit of work experience with my own dentist back home in one of the summers, and I actually really liked it. And I think I was only with him for probably 3 or 4 days at the time, but it was just so varied. Like everything that he saw was like every single patient was so different. Every person that came in, their problem was so different, and he actually got to take people out of pain, fix their problems, and leave at 5 o'clock and go home and not have to worry about all the other like paperwork stuff that my doctor work experience had to do.
yeah. I think that's probably the best part, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
so
can
I was
just
kind of like, this actually makes a little bit more sense. So I was really like, in hindsight, I'm very grateful that I didn't get what I wanted, because it definitely wouldn't have been the best suit for me whatsoever. Yeah, so then that's how I sort of changed my mind, probably going into second year of biomed,
yeah.
and then the big pursuit began.
Was that 3 year course then, the biomed
It was
degrees?
a 3 year
Yeah,
course, yeah.
because I know
Yeah.
sometimes you get those little upgrade courses where you do it for a year and then you get dropped into the medicine or dentistry course. There's a couple of people in my year who did that, and it works out really well actually. But I
Yeah.
think it's definitely something that's interesting because I speak to a lot of American guys and girls,
Mhm.
and they do a what do they call it? They do an undergrad first, don't they?
Yeah.
And I think it actually works out much better for them because you're a bit more of a rounded person. At 18,
Mhm.
it's not really, unless you're super sure and you're super lucky.
Yeah.
How can you really know what you want to do for the rest of your life when you basically
Yeah.
not lived outside of parents' four walls and in a very
Exactly.
controlled classroom environment? Um,
Yeah.
and then, I mean, just 1 year it took you to almost turn 180 or 90 degrees maybe and decide that you're going to go with a medicine adjacent sort of topic or a career. Um, I think it's something that's interesting and it's a bit difficult, so maybe people should take a little bit more time and not dive right into.
Yeah.
Um,
I think as well, even being in Kings, like obviously, like I'm 28 now, but when I started dentistry, I was 23. So seeing our first patients maybe like 24, and I still felt like you're gonna feel like a bit of a baby anyway because you're so new to it and you don't really know exactly what you're doing. But I always remember feeling at that stage when we were seeing our first patients, like if I was 18 or 19 and at this stage, like I would just feel like I just wouldn't know what I was doing. So I do think like a lot of maturity comes with that extra bit of time
Mm.
and sort of feeling like you've grown up a wee bit and the people can take you a bit more seriously as well.
Yeah, not even only that, but if you imagine you went and did dentistry and it took you, um, so you start at 18, you're now 23, and you've done 5 years worth of a course at almost 10 grand, and you actually realize I don't like this.
Yeah,
Are you
exactly.
stuck now because you spent all that money getting into that course? What's your loan situation? You can't really go and do another course unless you're very lucky. So it's one of those where I kind of don't agree with a lot of the way things are done. Um,
Mhm.
but it's one of those things I think we're going to have to deal with, and everyone around has to kind of deal with. Um, I think there's definitely some guys you go through and you can see them kind of just their friends are all going out every night and they're going to having fun doing different restaurants and bars and all this sort of stuff, and you've got patients the next morning. So does it take away from your kind of youth? Maybe a little bit. Is that the best thing if some people do it anyway? Again, it
Yeah,
happens. I'm sure you've seen it happen. People are coming up and not in the best uh,
definitely.
of states to clinics and things like that. So it's one of those. Should we really be doing it so early? And it does make you grow up. Actually, I think that is one positive. I know we've been slightly negative there, but it does make you grow up a little faster, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Because you do feel like when you're on clinics during the day, it's like 9 to 5 every, Monday to Friday, you do feel like this is your job, like this is what you have to do because you're not just, well, obviously at the very beginning, you're doing it all on phantom heads
Mm,
and plastic teeth or whatever, but you are doing it like very real, on real people. So, you do feel like you have to take it seriously. I think you're definitely in the wrong place if you're not at that point. But yeah, I do think it's quite interesting that I'm in America that they all do medical school and dental school all as graduate entry. And I don't know, maybe that's something that
I think
would
there's
happen
pluses and
here.
minuses, isn't there? There's pluses and minuses
Yeah,
because it's going to cost you. They're in like 400 grand's worth of debt, but at least they definitely know what they want to be doing. And is it? I don't know. Is it worth a couple of years worth of being a little bit stuck in a longer degree and paying a little bit more if you know that you're going to enjoy what you do every day? I don't know. I
exactly.
think you'd have to ask those guys and come up with some sort of a consensus, because I know
Yeah,
people that don't like dentistry but are stuck doing dentistry. I'm sure there
yeah,
are loads of guys like that, and it's not good for the patients, and it's probably not good for that person more importantly as well.
yeah, exactly. And the only thing I would say was like, obviously, to get into the graduate entry
Oh
programs,
yeah.
like you have to have some kind of scientific background. So a lot of people, as I said, most people that did biomed with me, they all wanted, like, it's definitely at the beginning of the degree anyway, they all wanted to go on and do medicine, dentistry, or some other healthcare subject after. And, a lot of people change their mind throughout that. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I don't think like there's this big idea that changing your mind is like giving up in some way, and it doesn't really always mean that. Especially like the older you get, maybe your priorities change. You don't want to spend another 5 years. If you're graduating at 21, you don't want to spend another 5 years in uni minimum.
Yeah.
Um, so everyone's doing their own little journey. But I would say like biomed bore no resemblance to anything in dentistry whatsoever. So when people are like, "Oh, this is so helpful that you have an undergrad," I was like, "Not at all, not in the
I
slightest."
think it'd probably get you through like the physiology, in first year, which
Very slightly,
that's
like 'cause
about it.
we were doing physiology like in like a little measures like the whole way through, like obviously like a larger part in fifth year as well, like in oral med and
Mm.
everything. But everything that I had learned in 2010 when I was like starting biomed, I've completely forgotten. So it was just like, if anything, it was just bringing back bad memories, but I couldn't remember any of it. So it's not exactly useful. Although there was one girl in my year who did anatomy as her undergrad.
Oh, that's
I was
good.
like, that's really useful. I would understand if they kind of encourage that instead of like biomed, biochem,
That
those
yeah,
kinds of
that
things.
would be really useful. I can barely remember any of mine. Well, I can remember some of it. You know, you remember the things that you do more often.
But yeah,
Everything
exactly.
else kind of has gone out the window.
Yeah.
Like where we were doing thoracic and all that sort of stuff. It's I can remember doing it because of the smell, but that's about. I can't remember much more. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's interesting that all these different ways that people get in. Um, do you regret it now? Obviously, it's difficult to say because you've not worked yet, but kind of the journey, anything that you would have done differently?
Probably not. I mean, if I had got my A level grades that I needed, because I had an offer and everything to do medicine,
Mm,
but I really think like it would have been really difficult. As you said, like if I had got in at 18 and then figured out throughout those 5 years between 18 and 23, like maybe this isn't for me. I didn't really think about other factors within this degree. Like it's not like Grey's Anatomy every day, but it would have been really difficult to drop out then and think, what else am I going to do?
yeah,
So I'm just really glad that it worked out the way it did. And I think, doing the work experience obviously with my own dentist, that was in general practice, mixed NHS and private. So I got to see like little bits of everything, but not a whole lot of one thing. And then, coming into dental school, loads of people had like lots of experience in like max fax wards or seeing loads of implants. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what max fax even
yeah.
is, like at the beginning. And then sort of like learning it as I was going along. And like thankfully, I'm really glad though that I'm at this stage now where I don't hate anything. Like there's a lot of like even a lot of my friends, like there's a certain part of dentistry that they're like, I can't wait to specialize so I never have to do like
Dentures,
whether it's
dentures.
endos against dentures. Exactly. But I don't hate dentures, and I really liked all of our denture appointments because the patients are always so interested to talk to you
Oh
and they're
yeah,
always really
the denture patients are interesting. It's the denture
fair
themselves
about it.
I disliked
Yeah.
intensely. I think that's two different things there, and you
Yeah.
want a good outcome for them as well. That's the thing. So
Yeah.
you just think,
It's disheartening if it doesn't
yeah. So
work.
you're just like, I'm
Yeah.
probably not the right person for you to be seeing to get a nice
Yeah.
denture. um,
Oh, no.
yeah, well, I mean, part of it, of course, is taking enough time and having all the right equipment available, which, as we know, NHS is a little bit funny about if you're under the numbers cosh. But yeah, I think dentures, I would be happy if I didn't have to do too many again. Um, but I don't think that's something that I can choose until I get like a private.
I'm not sure if I've muted something here. No. I can see you, but I can't hear anything. Probably broke something. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I think the mic's broken. So
No
let's
worries.
get rid of that. Um, yeah, guys who are watching, can you hear me now? Yeah, you can. Thank you, Annika. Sorry, we've had all sorts of um,
Yeah.
all sorts of difficulties today. Um, and thank you, Ricky. I can see you've texted me on the Discord. Thank you for that. I think I'm back. Yeah, we've had all sorts of issues with these mics. I don't know what's wrong with it. I'm just gonna turn that off. Um, I can't even remember what I was saying. Someone in the comments just remind us what we were talking about before it all went off.
I was just gonna ask you what your favorite thing to do in dentistry is.
Endo. So,
Oh, you like it? Okay.
yeah. So I think it's just one of those things that I feel really calm once I'm under with the rubber dam and everything, and I can well, not take my time, obviously, but it's a little bit of a slower pace. Um, so I think it's really kind of a serene sort of environment. I don't know if you have that when you're doing your endos.
I haven't really felt serene wouldn't be the word I would use to describe it, only because we sort of save all of endo practice to final year.
Yeah.
So I mean we do know how to do it before years that are like scrapping for the quotas and things like that. So it's always been kind of like a panic situation.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh. Are we gone again?
Hello? Hello?
I can see you, I can hear you. It's me.
No, I can hear you and see you fine.
Has it come back? Honestly, it's Virgin
Yeah.
Media today because I've not touched anything there. It's I've actually not touched anything that time.
It might just be Wi-Fi connection or something like dipping.
I'm actually wired, so it's just Virgin Media. I'm wired into the wall, into the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can complain to Virgin Media guys, then please do, because that's the issue. You're probably going to be getting.
I mean, I spent the last 3 years of my like where I lived in London, complaining to Virgin Media, so
Yeah.
don't mind giving them earful.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn down the stream rate, so you should get a bit better connection, guys. Now. Yeah, so yeah, endos. You kind of get that serene feeling where everything's nice and calm, and you don't have to faff around too much. So that's kind of why I like it. But I think there's other guys that obviously dislike it intensely as well. But I think it's down to what kind of person you are.
Yeah, I think like the more experience I get with it, the more practice, then I'll feel like a little bit more confident. But I'm not so certain if I'm quite there yet. But hopefully that will come with time in foundation year.
Yeah, you just got to get a few under your belt. How many did you end up doing during your?
I think we did about 5, so it wasn't really that much. We had like obviously our clinics were cut short because of like
Corona?
COVID, all of that. Yeah. So, but we have the way our foundation year is going to be set up is we have all of our study days at the beginning and lots of like phantom head stuff, and then we go on to clinics after instead of having them like dispersed throughout the year, because they're like really aware that like a lot of us probably won't have had much clinical time, like obviously over the last 6 months anyway. But that our clinics were cut a little bit short, so they're sort of bearing that in mind, which is really good.
Yeah, so I think that's probably nice because you'll get a little bit of extra teaching just before you start, which is going to help boost your knowledge, and anything that you might have forgotten will be kind of picked back up. And then afterwards you can put it all into action, which will be really good as well. It's a nice way of doing it because sometimes you want to. Can you hear me and everything?
Okay. Yeah, no, I just disconnected there, but we're back.
Yeah, honestly, we're not having a good time with the old internet today. I don't know whether my brothers are maybe playing on the Xbox or something, and it's just taking up all the bandwidth. That's something that sometimes happens, I think. Yeah, but in terms of getting into the dental school, how was the actual application process? Because is it different to an undergrad application? Is it still through UCAS?
No, it's exactly the same interview and everything. It was anyway for King's back in 2014.
Yeah.
It was all exactly the same questions and everything. But it was just the same like UCAS, personal statement, UKCAT that we had to do, which I think has been changed now to UCAT. But I'm not sure if it's the same setup or if it's the same kind of exam questions. But it's all those things like, with the shapes and verbal reasoning and different things. I can't even remember what. But what's really funny is I was actually like, when I was sorting out my room like over lockdown and like throwing out loads of like old things, I have done the UKCAT 3 times. So from the first ever time I was applying for medicine, and then twice when I applied for dentistry. And people like sell all these courses and all these books to make it like super easy to do. And I never bought the books or did the courses. I was just like, this is such a luck thing. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me, these shapes and weird sort of questions that they ask. And I looked at the 3 sets of results I had, and all of them were completely different. So I do think it's like, for me anyway, it was complete potluck on the day, like whether it was going to go well or not.
Yeah.
Um, and thankfully it did the time that I needed it anyway. And then the interview was fairly straightforward. It was the multi-mini interview, so it was probably about 8 or 10 stations and fairly straightforward questions like why do you want to do dentistry, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember that the King's one. They took you up to the really high floor, don't they?
Yeah.
Um, and then the only actual one I remember was that one where they showed you a picture, and you
Oh
had to
yes.
describe the picture. I was just like, this is a bit weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really weird station actually. That
Yeah.
stayed
And
with me.
you went to Newcastle, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to Newcastle in the end. I got a King's offer, but um, I can't hack London. That was the main thing. Um, it's too busy for me. I don't know if anyone who's actually lived in London and lived in Liverpool. You lived in Liverpool as well, actually, haven't you? So you can maybe think about the
Yeah.
difference in kind of how fast everything is. So the last time I was in London, um, I was leaving King's Cross Station. I was just going to see my cousins because my grandparents were there, and I got kicked by an old lady so she could go through the barrier first.
She kicked you.
Yeah, she like did an ankle tap.
Oh no.
Um, no, it was really obvious as well because like you could see her. She like kicked my bag, then kicked my leg, and I turned around, then she's gone through, and I was like, okay, this place is
It wasn't a
so
mistake.
not for me.
Yeah.
Um, and this is like someone's grandma probably, so I was just like, okay, this is a bit too much.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
think
yeah,
like where I live is like this little town called Newry. Well, it's a city, but it's a very, very small city called Newry.
yeah,
And it's right on the border and it's like quite a small kind of place. So when I moved from here to Liverpool at 18, like Liverpool to me was like the biggest city, like the craziest place on earth. Which obviously like it's not in comparison to other cities like London, but it was, I think it was a good sort of like stepping stone for me
mm,
because it like there's so many Irish people there as well. Like it sort of felt like home from home for a few years. And then when I moved then to London, it took me a while to get used to it. Like people, I know people always sort of said it's very stereotypical, like London people aren't friendly. I don't think that's true at all. Like a lot of my really good friends are from London, so obviously there are a lot of very friendly people there, but it's probably like rush hours and train stations, you're not going to find happy
yeah,
people at all. And I did find that like over time, especially when you're on the tube and they always say like don't stand on the left, like just stand on the right and then people can run down on the left. And if you're in a rush to get somewhere and there's like a tourist standing on the wrong side with their selfie stick out and you're just like please move. So you do become that person really quickly and I had to kind of catch myself on a few times and remember like you're not from here.
yeah.
We did.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's that's exactly it, I think, but it's just I'm a very slow person. Like I take my time over everything.
Mhm.
I try and be on time, but I take my time over things. So I'll always, if I'm going somewhere, I leave with a good half an hour's gap, so that when if I
Yeah.
get there, I can just faff around. I'll go, do whatever I want to do, and then sit my phone for 20 minutes in the car.
Yeah.
That I'm that kind of person. So in London, you can't be that person because that means you don't sleep because you have
Yeah.
to get up so early, or yeah, you have to
Yeah.
set off so early. So it was completely the wrong place for me. Um,
Yeah.
I think I'm lucky that I understood at least that about myself before I started uni at
Yeah.
18.
Mhm.
Although everything else was I was probably still learning things about myself even now. But I think it's you have to go there to appreciate it. I think
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
a great
I
place
think
to
like
visit.
yeah, it took me a while to realize the difference, but because I had been to London a few times, like even when I was like really young with my family, like we went for weekends and saw Big Ben and Buckingham Palace and like all those things. But living there is very, very different, and like you're
Mm,
not gonna be going to Harrods every day. Well, you can, but you're not gonna do anything there.
yeah,
um, and it's a very different situation. So it definitely took me probably about a year to feel settled there because by that stage then like I'd made a lot of friends in my course and just felt like I had a bit more of like my own life there
yeah.
as opposed to like just feeling very stuck in this massive city with no one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and I think Newcastle is very similar in terms of like its makeup and size as Liverpool. You can
Yeah.
walk from one end to the other. I had my car for a few years, but before I brought my car up, I didn't feel like I needed the car. So
Hmm.
that was really important, I think, because then you can do all the studenty sort of things that you want to do
Yeah.
without feeling like you're missing out on things
Yeah.
because you can't get from one to the other and it's not super expensive. Like I was probably paying the same amount as people in London for something which was just so much nicer. And I think
Yeah.
that's quality of life as a student is underrated in a way because you
Massively.
you want to you're going to be somewhere for 5 years, especially as a dentist. Anyone who's listening who or watching back who wants to be a dentist, um, you're going to be somewhere for a long time. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you found in London compared to Liverpool, you were limiting what you were doing within your spare time and life, or maybe overspending. Because I'm the sort of person that probably would end up in the negative if I was just like,
Yeah.
oh god, oh, but I want to go there now. So yeah, and
Yeah,
then
very easily. I think as well, like even in Liverpool, every night out that you go on into the city centre is aimed for students. There's four universities in Liverpool, so every night is student night. Every bar has student deals. Whereas London is people who are working there who are making a lot of money, and then you're like a student kind of looking for where you fit in this massive city. And
yeah,
of course, like it's very lucky that King's, being such a big dental school, have a lot of student events on. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot else going on.
yeah.
That was really aimed at us. Obviously, they can make a lot more money targeting the banking people and all of those. So it's not really a student city as much as Liverpool was, and I'm sure
No,
Newcastle is really quite similar. Like it's very much aimed at students and hen parties and stag parties and stuff like that.
Newcastle winding me up today. But yeah, Newcastle was this kind of place that as soon as you leave, all the students leave, it's empty.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
see that
exactly.
in third and fourth and fifth year because you start staying longer than the rest of the students because you've got clinics to do. And
Yeah,
then that kind of holiday time starts for everyone else. And the city's just emptied and there's no one around. So you only end up seeing medics and dentists who are other students around and maybe a couple of like
yeah,
PhDs and
yeah,
master students who've got big long dissertations to write, so they're kind of grumpy and hiding away in libraries and things. But the place is just like a ghost town afterwards, and it's really really weird in a way. So I think Liverpool may be a bit similar, but maybe a little bit bigger than Newcastle. I think it's probably a bit of a bigger city than Newcastle. Um, but yeah,
maybe.
that was something that was really obvious to me, and you don't get that in London. It's just non-stop, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Every season is tourist season, and yeah, it just never ever stops. But even as you said, like the term dates for all other courses always ends a lot earlier. But um, in King's, all the dentistry and medicine is based at Guy's campus,
Yeah,
so that's right in the shadow of the Shard, and everyone is there like all the time. I think in between, like, was it third and fourth year was our shortest summer, and we had like 3 weeks off, which for most working people that's a really decent summer, but for a
yeah.
student, especially me having had the like normal student life before, getting like 6 months off for summer, 2 months off for Christmas, and just these like
Oh, wow.
ridiculous holidays. And then I was like, what is this? Whereas like a lot of the people who were on the 5 year course didn't really know what they were missing out on. They were like, oh, it's great, we've got 3 weeks off for the summer. So
Yeah, it's a different life because you can go away for a month and then
yeah,
come back and work for 2months. So
yeah,
if you are needing money, then you can do that for 2months and kind of pay it off, which I'm sure
exactly.
people were doing. And here we were with like 6 weeks, but you're so tired from clinics. You take 2 weeks just to relax, and then you've got 4 weeks
Yeah,
left. You go, okay, great now, so I
I'm,
can go away for 2 weeks, or I can work, or
yeah,
I'll do whatever. So yeah, it's a different life doing dentistry. I think you do. If there are guys out there who again wanting to um, get into dental school and things, you do need to think that it's a different student life compared to any other degree other than maybe medicine. And weirdly, architecture. They seem to be very busy. I don't know if you had
yeah.
architect
Is
friends.
it a 5 year course as well, or maybe
Seven,
long?
seven.
7 years architecture. My goodness.
It's weird. They go in like they do like an undergrad, and then they do some weird like placement for 2 years, and then they come back and
Right.
do something, and then they go in placement. It's very confusing. That it did get explained to me once, and I've forgotten. So
Yeah.
apologies to the architects, but yeah, um, it's a very different lifestyle. Um, I actually did get a question which wasn't in relation to this live, but I think it's probably something we can answer. Someone was asking about. Let me get it up. About student life. Um, it was kind of socializing and fitting in. Did you ever have kind of issues fitting in with the social group in uni, or did you kind of find your way quite easily? Because I think that's something that is very prevalent. You know, you go into a completely new environment with people from all sorts of different backgrounds. I think people kind of lose themselves. I don't know if you saw that with yourself or any other people.
Yeah, I think with our year group, like there's, as I said, there was 170-ish students in our year, so you're going to find friends somewhere. You're going to find someone to get on with. But I think one benefit of being on the graduate entry scheme was that we started about 2 weeks before the rest of the year group kind of then joined in
Yeah.
second year. So there was about 20 or so of us, and we just gelled really well as a group. And you sort of get this crash course in dental, like in tooth morphology and all these different kind of skills. And then you join the rest of second year, and then you're sort of split up. So every year, our whole year.
Apologies, guys. Virgin Media is absolutely killing us today. I was just saying, yeah, in Newcastle we had only about 18 a year, so
18 or 18?
80 on
Oh,
average.
right, okay.
Yeah, on average
Yeah.
about 18 a year. So the
Yeah.
year above me they had 100, and by the time I had finished it was only about 60 in a year. So the groups were getting smaller. So
Yeah.
you kind of get to know most people within dental school. If they were relatively social, you'd end up knowing them.
Yeah.
So that was quite good.
Yeah.
And then you can obviously hear different experiences of exams and things, and there's notes passed on, which is really helpful for a younger student just to get a little
Uh-huh.
head start and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that was really useful.
I think that's the one thing that everyone sort of, a lot of people ask me anyway, like from younger year groups or people who are just starting dentistry this year, they sort of ask like, what textbook should I buy and
Yeah,
what should I was like, don't buy anything, just ask, so like make friends with one person in the year above you, and then they'll send off like the Dropbox notes and all of the passed down like Bibles to pass whatever that year is, and that's like all you need to get through exams. But then in
mm,
terms of like what you actually want to know, because it's just your bedtime reading, then you just buy whatever you want. But yeah, I think that's a massive part of it, is like being social with people in the year above. And in most medical and dental schools, they'll have like families that they set up. So you'll
yeah,
have like a mum and dad in the year above, and they're like always a really good like go-to person if you have any questions. Like Kings were always, they were good at explaining like what was coming up in the year ahead, but I think it's definitely beneficial to have a few friends in the year above. So yeah.
yeah, for sure. I think we had that as well. And it was quite useful, but you ended up kind of making actual friends with someone, as
Yeah.
opposed to have this forced kind of interaction thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there was some pairings which were just like completely wrong for each other and stuff. But it's
Yeah.
it's a good like mixer way to kind of get started. But then you actually make a good friend with someone. So I was really close with David Breton. He was like
Oh,
in
okay.
fourth year when I was in first year. So he gave me and my cousin all of his notes when he left, and it was a
Oh,
godsend, like his actual physical notes. So
yeah. Okay.
that was a huge kind of help. And um, there's always people like that out there. It just depends on who you get on with, and people are helpful. If you're good to people, and you kind of reap what you sow, isn't it? That's the saying.
Exactly.
Um,
I think that's like, obviously if you're going into like a healthcare profession, you are going to find lots of caring people who actually genuinely want to help you.
mm,
And not only do you find that in dental school, where it's really, really important to actually get out of dental school,
yeah,
but then it's nice to get to this stage as well where you can meet loads of other dentists who have loads of tips, loads of advice to give to you, and you don't feel like embarrassed to ask people for advice because you
yeah.
know that most people are actually genuinely very helpful. And it's quite a nice environment.
Yeah, I think you've kind of seen that more and more during this kind of Corona period as well, where
Yeah.
everyone's just giving up their time because probably because they're a little bit bored as well, to be honest. But
Yeah.
and it's something to say, and they can give something back. But I'm sure there are people that wouldn't have done that in other walks of life. So I think it's nice to see that the guys who are the really high up are helpful in giving away all the secrets and tricks of the trade and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
we had a good chat last week, didn't we, when we were talking about what we were going to talk about? And
Yeah.
you've done a lot of this, not the same things, but similar things to what I've done, in terms of media work. And you did like a radio show, I remember.
I
Um,
did have a radio show.
where did that start?
So my friend had a radio show on, it was the King's like radio network. And yeah, so my friend had a radio show and then I went on as a guest one time
Mm,
and I just had a really like good time on it. Like I just thought it was quite fun. But I always did like lots of extracurricular stuff like the whole way through school and even in Liverpool as well, like dance teams, choirs, orchestras, that kind of thing. So I've always liked to have hobbies outside of like school or like exams, and I just think it makes you a bit like a more all-rounded person, and actually makes me a lot better with like time management as well.
yeah,
Because I don't know how you felt, but like see in lockdown, especially at the start, when you have nothing to do and all day to do it, like the days just roll past and you've not achieved much. Whereas like in uni where I was doing like lots of different things in the evening or going to different societies and clubs, I just found that I was better organized with my time for like revision and stuff. So yeah, I did the radio show with my friend who had his own show,
yeah.
and then the next year I applied to have my own, and they sort of asked like, well, what is your show going to be about? What are you going to do? Is it music or is it talk show? And I was like, oh, it's probably going to be both because I really like rap music and like grime music, and I also like talking to people. And they were like, that's not a typical combination that you would find. And I really used to love the Charlie Sloth show on BBC One Extra. And it was
Right.
called, he had like a little segment in it called Fire in the Booth because it was all rappers and stuff. So I called mine Fire in the Tooth. And I thought that was like the punniest thing I could ever come up with. And it was actually like, it was really fun. Like I had like all my friends came on as guests and we would play like Drake songs and Skepta and different things. And then Anna Middleton, who's the London hygienist,
Yeah.
she came on one night as well. And we played like lots of quizzes and games and played like all her favorite songs. So it was just really fun. Like it was just something a bit different to do. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it.
So you must love the logo that I ended up making.
I love it so much.
Fire,
Why did I not do something
fire in the
like
tooth.
this? It's so cool.
That fits nicely. Yeah, and it was interesting because you said you were really quiet, when you were younger in school and things as well. Which again is the same
Yeah,
thing that I had. Like, I'm sure people who knew me at school would be like, "He does a podcast. Like, are you sure the same guy?"
yeah,
Um, but it's one of those things. I think dentistry is really great for kind of getting you out of your skin, and bringing yourself outside and kind of being a bit more confident and all those sorts of things. All those cliches. I'm sure we can roll uh, off the whatever. I can't even think of words now. But it make
but definitely really like because I was definitely oh, I was shy, but like as in I would have done a lot of like dance clubs and different things in a group setting. I was fine,
mm,
but if it was like who wants to get up and do a presentation in front of the class, like my heart would like sink into the pits of my stomach, like that kind of stuff I always hated. So I just didn't really like the idea of like the singling me out kind of thing.
yeah.
So I was shy in that sense. So to do the radio show was very nerve-wracking, especially in the beginning, and that's why I always would have like a guest on with me that just made it kind of flow a little bit
Yeah.
easier. And then I actually really enjoyed that, even just in like I was talking to, it was always people like out of my course or like my own friends, but sort of feeling like you're interviewing them a bit and actually getting to know them probably on like a different level than I had done in classes and stuff. And it made things a lot easier when it came to actually like being on clinics
Yeah.
and talking to patients and just, getting like information out of people that you sort of need to in order to progress.
Did you ever find it amusing if people were a bit more like guarded when they're on a on a live radio show as opposed to when they're in like the house or something and just chatting
Yeah,
normally?
100%. But it wasn't just like, it wasn't that, I do think people sort of feel like they're censoring themselves a little
Yeah.
bit, but a lot of people had like a radio voice. Like, you know how a lot of people have their telephone
Mm.
voice, but they would do this like, and that was some song by Jessie J. And I was like, no, it wasn't. Why are you talking like that? That's not what you sound like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm not sure if I
that
have
was,
that voice or not. I think I feel like I don't, but I maybe
no,
I have to maybe I have to build one up. You know, like getting really
no.
really hype. I was watching a video earlier. They were saying, oh, before you go on a podcast, you have to do like 20 star jumps to get like hyped for it. So
No,
I didn't
that
actually do that
was,
because I was having a cup of tea instead. So that was my
yeah. No, I definitely was not doing that either. That would cause damage, so I'll just not do that. What's your favorite podcast to listen to, though?
so cliche, but Joe Rogan.
Who's been your favorite guest on that podcast that you liked?
There's a lady from LA called Rhonda Patrick, who's
Right.
she does what's she a molecular biologist? Let me get this right. I'm gonna get this right because it's really interesting actually. Um,
Did you watch the one about Area 51? I can't
I
remember the guy's
I
name.
think I saw a little bit of it. Like I just watch little clips here and there. There's so much
Oh,
to get through. I just click a random one and just
yeah,
let it go and then see if I like it. Um,
yeah.
she is a American biochemist. It's all
Okay.
about aging, cancer, and nutrition. So I'm really interested in nutrition and
Oh,
exercise. So that's kind of like, oh yeah, scientifically backed exercise. That sounds fun to me.
yeah,
Because I'm lazy, so I'd rather do the most effective thing and have more time
yeah,
to sit around and drink coffee and tea and eat cake or whatever.
yeah.
So
That
that
sounds
one's really
fun.
interesting one. Really interesting one.
Yeah. I listened to the one, it was, again, I can't remember the guest's name, but it was about like sleep and the whole science of sleep. And the guy was sort of saying that a lot of people sort of pride themselves on like, oh, I only sleep for 3 hours a night, and it's actually like not the best thing to be doing like long term. That
Yeah.
was a really interesting episode to listen to as well.
Yeah, it's all like that circadian rhythm thing, isn't it? You know, you get if you get up at the right. I can't really talk because I got up at what 1 p.m. today, and I have been during the most of lockdown. Um, yeah, I don't know. I seem to work really well doing all this kind of computery things in the evening. So I've ended up sleeping really late and watching Netflix. I think if Netflix didn't exist, I would probably be sleeping at about 12. So maybe I have to delete Netflix or something. Um,
As in, oh, like you watch Netflix at
yeah,
night?
yeah.
Oh,
But it's
what have you been watching?
so I've watched most of it. So what happens is I sit with my laptop and then I have it on in the background.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
the one that I just watched was Umbrella Academy was really good. That was really good actually. Umbrella Academy, if you've seen that one.
okay. No, I haven't seen that. Have you watched Selling Sunset?
No, it keeps on coming up on the popular
Yeah,
one, but I was looking again.
yeah, you should watch it. It's funny. It's I don't know if it would be your cup of tea, but it's very like reality TV, but like in the most glamorous houses, and they all have like drama going on in their office and stuff. And it's just very like, just you don't have to concentrate on it
Right.
because it's all quite sort of dumb, if I can say that.
Oh, so it's perfect for background watching or something.
Like you can miss two whole episodes and catch up because not much has happened.
Yeah.
But it's really like interesting to see their houses and the commission that they all make on them. It's really
I
good.
can imagine it'd be quite a lot, enough to buy one of the houses maybe.
Yeah, because it's interesting though, because I watched like the first two seasons all in one day,
Oh god.
and then waited for the third season to come out. Like, when is this going to finally be released? But they'll show like a house that costs like $140 million, that they'll maybe get like $1 or $2 million commission off it,
Wow.
and then they go to like the $60 million house, and you're like, no, what a dump, like compared to the last place. But yeah, it's a good show.
That's crazy. They're like famous people that you would recognize in these houses and stuff.
Yeah, so they'll have like someone go to view the house on their behalf because it's all like non-disclosure kind
Right.
of stuff going on. But then apparently Orlando Bloom was one of the people that they were buying the house for because someone spied it on his
Story.
Instagram after the thing had aired. That was the house that they were in. There you
I'll
go.
maybe check out an episode, see if it's my kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm very much into like the crime dramas right now. Um,
Oh, okay.
I quite like those. Like the American crime
Yeah.
ones are hilarious. Some of them, like have you seen White Collar? That was really really good.
No, I haven't seen that
That one's a
one.
really easy
I
watch.
Yeah, I remember like sort of early days of having Netflix, and that was when Making a Murderer was like the big show that everyone was talking about.
Yeah,
And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a like it was a bit of a roller coaster because I think at the start it was only 10 episodes. And I couldn't understand why it was taking everyone so long to get through the 10 episodes. And then when I started watching it, I was like, okay, this makes sense now because so much happens in one. You need to like go for a nap afterwards and sort of take a break.
yeah. I haven't done true crime actually. I've not watched much true crime. Um,
Mhm.
but you probably need to concentrate quite a lot. Is that would that sound about right?
Yeah. Yeah, like in every episode you change your mind, like, oh, he's so guilty, or the next thing is like he needs to get out and he didn't do this.
Yeah.
And you change your mind all the time, so it's quite
I
fun.
think if I've got an hour where I'm not trying to do three things at once, then I'll maybe watch some of those.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you do much like extracurricular stuff through uni, or did you have time to do it, or what way?
Ooh. So I didn't join clubs as such, but I did. I did like intramural football for a while,
Mhm.
up until clinics because it ended up taking up your whole Wednesday afternoon. And by the
Yeah.
time, so you would leave at like midday, and you always had half days up until clinic started. So Wednesday afternoon
Mhm.
was everyone's like intramural day, um, but it would take up all the way up until 8 p.m. by the time you finished off. So
Mhm.
eventually, you just like, you know what, I can't be bothered doing this. So
Yeah.
after that, I did stuff like, um, what we did things in the gym. So I think we did powerlifting for a year with my friend and my cousin. We got really into that. Um, we just kind of just faffed around a little bit, to be honest. I didn't do much kind of organized stuff, if that makes sense, like
Yeah.
in groups. Um, no, we just kind of messed around a lot and had fun, and
Mhm.
didn't work very much as everyone knows. I took a little bit longer through uni, which was the not the most clever thing to do. But yeah, I think the first couple of years are very difficult
Yeah.
because it's so new, and you really don't know what kind of a person you are. Are you someone who goes out, or are you someone who goes to, restaurants in the evening with friends and then has chill and, tea house and coffee house and stuff like that, or
Mhm.
someone who's like super doing all the uni sports, because it's a whole different culture in each one, isn't it? So
Massively. Yeah.
I think that's kind of it takes you a while to find that, and then I ended up kind of in a nice place with a few friends, and we were heavily into the gym, probably very much like Samson and his kind of crew.
Oh. Yeah.
And then yeah, we would go and do that, and then afterwards you would have to go and eat because you're working out so much, so you go off and eat as much food for as cheap as possible. So that was kind of our thing, and then going to the
Yeah.
cinema. There was an incredible tea house. So there's this place that you could go. It was open till 1 a.m. All the students would go there kind of late to do like late night revision, like and whilst kind of chatting and
Oh,
not really doing any revision, but the book's open at
yeah.
least. Um,
Yeah.
so that was kind of
Like, right.
yeah, that was kind of our kind of um, way to get through uni, I think.
Mhm.
I think we were very lazy. My friendship group, we didn't want to get involved in too much. We just kind of wanted to go. Oh, do you fancy going to town and just window shopping for like 6 hours? Yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah. Did you ever go to like BDSA or any of the dental events, or did you
Yeah,
try and keep the two separate?
yeah. We went to what was called Field Day, which was Newcastle, Dundee, and Glasgow, I think it was. Um, so we did that. I did that a few times, which was good fun. And it was like sports and things. So very similar to BDSA. I never actually went on BDSA because it was a whole weekend, and
Yeah.
um, we always end up doing something else on those weekends. So yeah, I think it was pretty good.
Mhm.
I think you definitely. I think it's really important if you are going to uni to actually go there and see what kind of people are in the uni, because each uni attracts a different sort of crowd, I feel. Um, but obviously get in wherever you can get in as well.
100%.
Yeah,
Accept it and then find your little flock there when you
yeah.
when you
So yeah,
yeah, no, I think like my friends are all like very similar to me. Like as I said, like it took me about a year to sort of settle in London in general. But then I joined like loads of societies, and obviously like having 170 people in the year, you're bound to find someone who is very similar to you and has like similar interests and stuff. And I was very lucky to like find my group of friends. We all have very similar interests, like going out, went to the social weekends and
Yeah.
stuff. But we only actually went to BDSA twice, like over the whole 5 years. So we went to one sports weekend. Obviously, didn't play sports, but like just went, collected the wristband, and then went on the nights out and stuff associated. And then the second one was a conference.
Yeah.
So it was actually quite good because, again, you had to go to the lectures to get your tickets to go to the ball and like the different nights out after. But the talks were actually quite interesting. There was one from BSED. There was a few ortho ones, like a few different specialties and things like that. So it was actually really like well organized. That one was in Birmingham.
Yeah,
So
I
that was
kind of wish I had gone because I don't drink or anything. So a lot of the time I was thinking, oh, what's there for me to do? But I think if there were talks and things that were really good ones, maybe it would have been useful. But I think the ACD do a lot within the London unis, don't they?
yeah.
Because you obviously know Simon and you know some of the other guys as well. Because you've got on board with Parla, how do you say it?
Parla, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very excited. They asked me to be one of the Parla professionals, which was a super opportunity because I just like I believe in that product and the whole ethos behind it. It makes so much sense. Like a lot of the sort of more environmentally friendly products that you find aren't always maybe that tooth friendly.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of patients who use like bamboo toothpicks or bamboo toothbrushes, and you sort of have to tell them like, I know that you're doing the right thing for the environment here and you've done loads of research in this, but XYZ. Whereas with Parla, it's got both of these things. So it's got loads of fluoride in it, but it's
Mm,
also plastic free. So, but yeah, in terms of the BSED, I think, and this sort of ties into something that we were talking about earlier with like lots of students applying for lots and lots of things.
yeah.
And I think it's a really easy trap to fall into as a dental student. To just see so many people doing loads and loads of different things within dentistry. And it's wonderful that all those opportunities are there,
Yeah.
but you don't have to do all of them. And if you try and do all of them, you're going to do all of them really badly because you don't have the time to afford to do them properly. Whereas when I started at King's, I think I had heard about the BSED through like a few uni talks, and I went to some of their events. I joined as a student member, and then I realized that they had this like student ambassador, student representative position.
Yeah.
So I applied for that and didn't get picked because there was people in years above me, and of course they were going to get picked over me. But I stuck at it, like I kept applying for that third and fourth year as well, and then kept going to the events and actually really got to know a lot of the dentists who are involved in it. So then when it came to final year, I got picked as a student rep, so I was really happy about that. But as part of my role as student rep, I had to then forward on all of the applications for the next year. And I think, I don't know if it's a King's thing or a dental student thing, but there's lots of keen beans,
Yeah.
and they had loads and loads and loads of applications. And the first thing they did was sift through like how many of these people are actually even student members of the BSED, or how many of them have ever actually been to an event. And that whittles it down to a very small number to begin with.
Mm,
So I think if you're going to apply for loads of things, just make sure it's actually something that you want to be involved in, and that you have an answer, a really good answer when they ask like, why do you want this, and that the answer isn't just for my CV, because I think that's why a lot of people do a lot of things.
yeah. I think that's. I think that is a. It's like, how have you got the time to do something which you're not actually interested in? I think that's kind of the question I would ask.
Mhm.
And there's no such thing. You saying there's an Instagram portfolio of
Yeah,
non-clinical things. Like you have a clinical portfolio, that's different.
yeah,
But again, that doesn't need to be posted. And yeah, I would stick to the stuff that you're actually interested in, because who's got the time in the world to do a load of stuff you're not bothered about?
exactly. If it doesn't matter to you, you're not going to find the time for it.
Yeah,
No, like a lot of people use that quote, like you have the same amount of hours in the day that Beyonce has, so she can do all these things, but she's so passionate about all these things. Like if you are getting emails from a certain company or society that you have something to do and it's just going to be like hanging over you, you don't want to do it, you're never going to do a good job. And especially if, if it was something that you might have had a little bit of interest
Yeah,
in and now you put them off ever working with you again because you've done
a bad job.
pretty bad job.
Yeah.
Yes. So just that would be my advice for any student that wants to get more involved in societies and things. Like pick one or two things that you really, really want to do and that do them correctly, do them right, and show them that you have a genuine interest by turning up to the events, messaging the people who are involved, finding out different ways that you can help out as a student, or if it's even something appropriate for a student to be involved in, and then take it from there.
Yeah, I had a what's it called? MUDR SOC. I think I've got that right. I always get it the wrong way around. They had the conference in February, which I was asked to speak at, and it was kind of work. I was doing workshops on social media, how to use it as a dental student, because these were all people who were either actually sixth formers or dental students. So I kind of had similar thing to what you've kind of said there. Social media, you use it now if you're a student as kind of like a learning tool. Oh, look, I can see George Cheatham and how he does like preps and things, and he put some good stuff up, and he'll put some evidence backing why he's done it, how he's done it, and all that kind of thing. So that's kind of what you would use it for as a student, and then you can also use it to kind of network as well. So you get to know people, but you wouldn't be posting your cases. I don't think as a student. I think that'd be pretty ridiculous because the first time you've done XYZ. It's probably not going to be very good. I'm sure if you look back at your finals cases now, and then in 6 months' time you look at them again, you go, oh, wow, that was bad. Because I know I've looked at mine and I'm going, oh my god, wow, they passed me on that. What was wrong with it?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think like there's a huge part of it that we definitely would not have ever been allowed to share anything like consent wise taken from uni because it was a teaching hospital and it was all through the NHS trust. Like I don't even think that's an option, other than I know a lot of students that would have like taken a phantom head even between clinics, would have gone and taken a phantom head and cut out plastic teeth, like done crime preps on that to put on their Instagrams, which is fair enough
that's
if they're looking for like feedback and stuff and see if anyone can give them tips and stuff. But yeah, I definitely think not much clinical stuff's going to go on my Instagram for a while.
No, I mean, I put stuff up in FD, but it was very selective, and I was taking probably winding up my ES a lot. I was taking hours over everything, but I was going through because I had the camera set up and all that, so I was doing every single step, was getting a photograph taken.
Okay.
So then the first ones I did were terrible of everything, pretty much. And then a few months in, you start going, oh, that doesn't look too bad, actually. And then I would do like this is how, I've improved sort of a post, not looking how good I am sort of a post, But I don't even do those anymore. The only thing I'm going to post from now on is probably going to be an endo, because I'm fairly confident with endos, and I've still got a long way to go with those. But I've seen students who have just qualified giving Zoom webinars on occlusion and other things along those lines. I'm just like, well, yeah, you shouldn't have been passed, mate. Because you're clearly working beyond your level, and that's something that's really important, because someone doing that is going to go ahead and go, oh yeah, I can do a full mouth reorganization 2 weeks into FD. And I think that's dangerous. I think there's like, yes, post stuff and have fun with it, but also don't be too up yourself. I think that's an issue that we have as dentists, isn't it? Unfortunately.
Definitely. But I think like a lot of it comes from good intentions. Like if someone has read a lot about something and they want to share their tips, but I think, as you said, like you sort of have to stay in your lane a little bit and realize like no matter what stage you're at, you still have so much to learn. But like at my stage, it's very much you've passed your driving test, but you still have your OR plates on for a whole year. You are just actually going to start learning now. You don't know what you're doing yet.
Yeah, I think that's something, because I don't know if I've done quite a lot of these like not webinars, chats with people. I call them chats with people. It's not a webinar. I'm not a Zoom webinar person. But yeah, if you go back, you'll probably see that I don't give my opinion like on clinical things very much. I just give my experience. I don't give
Yeah.
anything more than that. Like I leave that to people like Karina or like
Oh
whoever
yeah.
else I'm speaking to. They're the people who can give you tips.
Yeah.
If I'm giving you a tip or something, it's probably like, yeah, this is how you set up your camera, or
Yeah.
this is how you, I don't know, this is how I tried to improve, or it's something like a journey wise sort of tip. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important, like to get the right balance.
Hmm. I know you've done like a lot of work, especially more recently with like in terms of teaching dentists like how to use social media and like how to improve that.
Yeah,
I think that's like a really like that's one of the interesting things because most of the time it's like the older and more experienced dentists that teach us how to do a lot of things, whereas with social media it's such a young person, like younger generation's tool that just comes so naturally to
yeah,
so many of us that I think a lot of older people, not just in dentistry, but in all kinds of businesses and different industries, they see social media coming through, they see Instagram, people are using Instagram a lot, and they just bury their head in the sand hoping that it's going to go away someday. And then by the time they realize, like, actually, this is a really important tool for my business or to promote whatever product or service it is, then they've kind of missed the boat in learning how to use it. And then they
yeah.
have to, like, employ someone else to come in and help them do it for them.
I do feel sorry for them in a way because I've seen kind of a lot of this because I was on. I don't go on Facebook anymore. I was on Facebook for a
Oh,
while, and there's all those, the Dentist UK and all those groups, and there's a certain sort of
yeah,
vibe on there. If you're on there, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you come onto something like Instagram, and it's a completely different world,
yeah,
and it's not conversation based really. It's very visual, and I do feel sorry for some of these guys because in a visual medium, it's kind of geared towards younger, more attractive looking, or younger or cleaner looking sort of people.
mhm.
And in general, the older we get, the kind of more we let things go. I'm generalizing very much here, but it's a definite thing that I've seen. Actually, there's these young clinicians who are very good, like close
Mhm.
friends of mine who are absolutely killing it, and then there's this other sort of older clinicians who are reaching that really high level of work, who are really angry that these other guys are getting all the patients. And I think there's something to be kind of said about that because it's something that's going to happen. It's unfortunate, but yeah,
Mhm.
I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, I think like as much as like obviously I love Instagram and I've been addicted to it since the day it was ever released, but like as much as we see so much and it's heavily focused on like cosmetic
Yeah,
dentistry and a lot of very aesthetic outcomes, but that's because it lends itself so well to that to see a
mm,
before and after picture side by side. Like especially I know I went to a talk before that Rona Skander did and she said like if you're going to do a dental Instagram make sure you know who it's aimed at. Like, are you going to do a George the Dentist thing where you're teaching dentists how to do,
yeah,
and you can see the pathway, but patients might not necessarily care about that, like the stage by stage what you're doing in a composite, whereas they would rather see just a before and after. That's what it looks like, and that's what it's going to be, and then patients are more interested in
yeah,
that. Whereas I think like it's really it's obviously not all dentistry is cosmetic dentistry. There's so much else to it, but a lot of other patients maybe don't use Instagram or aren't looking on Instagram for their dentist, especially if you think of like a lot of dentures or a lot of more fixed pros things or implants. The patient demographic that might be looking for those treatments probably won't be on social media, or a great deal of them won't be on social media because they
yeah.
might be a little bit. So it's kind of knowing who your patient group is, what your demographic is, and then using whatever media or whatever marketing that you need to get your information and everything out to them.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a thing. I think it's just something that I noticed that there was that kind of friction there. But
That's
I think yeah, it's because if you're scrolling through, you're not going to stop on something that doesn't catch your eye. I think that's one thing that
yeah.
I kind of said in the video that I did earlier this week. Using your profile, it has to catch the eye. Like the profile picture
Mhm.
needs to catch your eye. If you've got a boring picture as your profile picture, it's just going to get scrolled past because it doesn't catch anyone's attention. I think that's and a lot of Instagram is that it's catching attention and then hooking them with something. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the age range thing is definite. So you can see on mine, that is the big bar is 25, and then that's
Oh, really?
35.
Okay.
So over 40s, there is 1.7% who are people who are over 55. So maybe 3% of my audience are over 55 or 40. So it's a completely different.
But I think that's really useful though. Like you can tailor your content and whatever you're posting about
Yeah.
to match that age group. Um, with mine, I think, yeah, my biggest age group is 18 to 24. Like I'm not even in that age range as much as I try and pretend that I am, but I'm not even in that bracket. So it's interesting to see like what people are interacting with and what patients or what kind of people are on those apps. And as well like with TikTok, the newer one,
8 to 12.
which I have to say though, like I really tried to like hope that it would just go away because I didn't understand it at the beginning. So I kind of felt like how the older generation probably felt when Instagram came out, like, oh, hopefully that just goes away. But there's so many dangerous things on TikTok that I keep seeing, like literally little young teenage girls taking food grade, like not medical grade bleach and a cotton bud and just putting it on their teeth and saying like, look, this is an at-home whitening. And as much as you want to like make another video or comment on it and say, please don't do this, but then a lot of people don't go on these entertainment apps to get lectured and ranted at by serious people. So it has to be aware that we can regulate that or get all the dangerous stuff off these apps because that's just not.
Yeah, I actually had that exact question from someone who'd seen it on TikTok and asked me on one of my profiles ago, oh, should I do that? I was like, yeah, no, don't. But that was a 13-year-old. So at least someone had enough common sense to ask, an actual professional. But I don't know how many 13-year-olds have common sense. So it is worrying. But it's the same thing, which is why, the Smile Direct Club's gone so big. And they're just... I'm probably going to libel myself here, but it's a terrible outcomes. I've had patients who've come back who look worse or the same as they did before, and now they've got perio issues. Patients who've had it, and you can still stick your fist through an anterior open bite. So what have they paid all that money for? So I think there's kind of positives and negatives to the whole social media thing.
Yeah, I definitely think like it's really sad that there are so many companies that get away with doing things like that, whether it's at-home whitening kits or like blue light kits or at-home braces companies, and they're allowed to actually have these products, even though, like, obviously, because most of the people I follow are dentists or in the dental world, and all I ever see is people saying like, do not use this is so dangerous, or like the picture of like a famous celebrity who went to a country abroad to have veneers done and it was the little shark pegs. And like you see all these things all the time, and I sort of forget that not everyone is seeing the concentration of dental truth that I see. Like they're only seeing all of these sort of highlight reels of like cheaper ways to do things, and they think if you're able to buy it, it must be legal, it must be safe, and it's not the case.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and I think what I've learned is when you're putting these messages out there, first of all, is there any point in me putting a public health message on my profile when everyone who follows me is a dentist? On Dentists of Insta, exactly. What help is me putting how to brush your teeth on Dentists of Insta going to do? Because everyone's a dentist, whereas in my own profile, a little bit more of a mix, but it's still probably 90-10 in terms of percent who's a dentist and not a dentist. So it is difficult because most people are not going to be following a dentist because it's not something they're interested in, especially dentists who are doing like oral health XYZ. They're just going to follow people like Dr. Ansar. So he's someone who can probably make a difference because he's got 40,000 people who are probably not dentists, because he's always getting his patients from Instagram. We spoke to him about that previously. So he's someone who, I know he does put things up and kind of clarify things. So it's good that he does that as well. How did you get started on the Instagram thing?
So I think, I can't remember when Instagram came out, but I know I definitely had it in Liverpool. So probably 2011, 12-ish, around that time. But back then it wasn't a social media app. I don't even know if we really use that term as much.
Yeah.
It was really just a photo filtering app. So it was like everyone, I don't think even like you could follow people, or it wasn't that kind of thing where you would just post like pictures of sunsets that were way overexposed, or like have these like horrible filters like the Nashville one that had the border around it, or like Valencia 2 was a personal favorite. And like it was just like loads of filters that you put on your pictures and then repost those pictures to Facebook.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of kept it like that for ages, but I loved using it. And then the more I just remember, like the more sort of celebrities that were on it that I like watched TV shows of, or like their music, and I followed them, and then people like follow each other back, and then my friends would get it, and it just sort of, yeah, just kind of very organically over time like that. And then I think once I realized that I wanted to do dentistry, and it wasn't as big a thing in the UK at the time, but a lot of the American like pre-dental pages, like a lot of those candidates were making their dental pages and talking about why they wanted to do it and all of their journeys. So I sort of interacted with a lot of them. And then it just like over time became a bigger thing in the UK as
Yeah.
well, I suppose. I remember like in second year, like coming across like Simon Shard and Rona Scander's pages and just thinking that they were like such cool dentists. Like that's exactly the kind of dentist I want to be. And coming back to like what you said about dentists can't really put on their page about like these lectury sort of corrections of all the information, like the wrong information that's out there.
Yeah.
But I know that Rona works with a lot of reality stars and a lot of celebrities and influencers and stuff, and she actually gets them
To do it.
to educate their followers and say, my dentist taught me that this is not what a veneer is, this is a crown, this is a badly done crown, and this is what a veneer actually looks like. So they're actually sharing the information, which
Yeah.
probably means more to a lot of people than it would coming from like one of us. So
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? Because um, there are some interesting dentists out there, but they're not well known, and really people only listen to people who are well known, whether or not the
yeah,
advice they're giving is right or wrong. So you kind of
yeah.
have to go through them in a way. So I think that's a really clever way of doing it, actually. And yeah, the Instagram thing was quite funny because if you scroll back to my first pictures, there's literally a picture of a packet of mints. I've just filtered
Yeah.
the hell out of it. Let's see if we can find it. I don't know why I did it. I think we were just sat. I remember we were sat in Nando's. I think that's what's nice about it, though. It's kind of just documenting when you did something or where you were. So a lot of the
Yeah.
photos that I have, and people have probably noticed this now, it's not in any sort of chronological order. Don't think that I'm in Rome or wherever the heck it is that, because I'm clearly not. But it's just like my own personal photo album of like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
saved, and if someone nicks my hard drive again, which has happened previously, then at least I've got the best photos
Oh
saved.
no.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how I see it. Um, and you're totally
It's
right.
interesting to see like how the trends evolve over time on Instagram. There was a time where like captions weren't a thing,
Mm.
or captions were just like a series of hashtags that meant absolutely nothing. It was just like the top 20 hashtags of the day. And then it became, oh wow, look at that.
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know why it's upside down either, but
that's such an old school type picture.
with the little frame around it and everything.
Yeah, like super, super saturated.
Oh my god, yeah, that's a
Um,
bad thing.
Yeah. And then it went through a stage where like captions were all very like short and snappy and punny. And now it's sort of gone the reverse again, where it's more like lengthier paragraphs and explaining
Mm,
things. And it's like, it's almost like turned into a blog for a lot of
yeah.
people, where they write a lot and they put a picture that's attached to it, that it's more about the actual caption itself. But that could all change again over the next year or so.
Yeah, I really like it as a. I think it's my favorite sort of platform because it's got that middle kind of ground, whereas Facebook is
Mhm.
just lots of people arguing about things.
Yeah.
And Twitter's the same actually. I don't understand Twitter. If anyone's seen my Twitter, just please unfollow me because all I do is complain about football, um, and the government. I complain about football and the government. So if you like that, that's all I do. Um, and then what else have we got? YouTube is something that I think is probably up there with kind of Instagram. Instagram and YouTube are my two go tos.
Yeah.
So like I said, I don't actually listen to the audio podcast on Joe Rogan. I watch the video because I
Yeah.
like to see the person's face when they're talking, because you get
Mhm.
that extra little bit of connection towards someone when you can see them, either laughing about something, or like if someone says something a bit dumb, you can see their face go like whatever.
I wish it
Then
undo.
no, but
Yeah.
he has guests who say outrageous things, and he calls them out on it, in a nice way, and I think that's really really cool, because it's kind of like they never fall out or anything like that, but it's like that healthy. Yeah, I think you're talking rubbish here, but they
Yeah.
don't fall out about it. So I think that's really interesting. I don't think I can get away with that in the dental world because people are a bit high strung. I think that's. I would love to, because I like saying outrageous things, but um, I think it's really interesting on there. And then obviously Instagram has kind of like everything looks nice, and you can do all these cool things. So yeah.
Exactly. I think as well, like Instagram has sort of seen any other app coming along and just sort of like batted it out of the park. Like Snapchat, you can do everything that you need to do on Snapchat, you can do on Instagram, and then even with TikTok. I don't know if that's officially banned yet in America or if that's like becoming a thing. And then Instagram was like, don't worry, we've got Reels. I still don't know how to use it, but like they sort of have covered all the bases of everything, whether it's IGTV for longer
Mm,
videos or really short videos and reels, which is replacing TikTok, which replaced Vine. Like they've just sort of covered all the bases. I think like it's definitely probably the smartest one of all the apps.
yeah.
And then Facebook is for like your like aunties to share different things, like and share and send to 10 people
Oh
and
god, yeah.
all those.
The WhatsApp, it's now become the WhatsApp chain message area, isn't it?
Oh God, yes. The WhatsApp chain messages at the beginning of lockdown was the worst thing to happen. Um, in terms of all of social media this year, because I actually fell for a lot of them though. I have to just admit the one about like my uncle's cousins friends son is in the army and they've seen all the yeah I fell for all
Oh
those.
dear. I mean, yeah. um, what was the?
It's not gonna happen again.
I've. It's none of the Corona ones that I did, but I did put one on my grandma's phone and send it to her friends to send along, which was really amusing, because
Oh
they believe everything that comes, because it's one of their friends has sent it, so
yeah.
they all believe it. So I wanted to see if it would come back round. I'm not
Oh
sure if it did, but yeah, they're so funny, some of them. It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, misspelt, completely just made up. It was something like, oh yeah, fridges are bad because of this, and if you throw away your fridge, you'll cure cancer or something like that. It was crazy, and it had lots of those red circles with the line through it.
yeah, like warning
Yeah.
signs. I remember one. It was the Thursday night 8 o'clock clapping that everyone did for like NHS or whatever. Um, they were said there was one message that came around that said coronavirus is caused by the 5G, and every week on a Thursday at 8 they need to sound an alarm to check that the 5G is working. So the clapping is to cover the sound of the alarm going off. And I was like, someone actually believed this enough to send this to me, so this is a problem.
Oh god, yeah. No, I think I think that's the big negative of social media, there, isn't it? Well, it's kind of hilarious, I think, because it is
Yeah.
sort of harmless, but if people start,
But if you think like the amount of stuff that we see just even in dentistry alone of like fake information that is being shared far and wide, like the bleach on the teeth, the whatever else, the coconut oil pulling, the charcoal toothpaste, all of this kind of stuff that is actually quite dangerous. And that's only like dentistry in the
yeah,
whole grand scheme of everything that happens on earth. Like think of how much else fake information and like potentially very dangerous information's out there that everyone's just fallen for.
the
It's
oil
so
pulling one, I
scary.
still don't understand how or what it was supposed to do. Like I've seen some of the things. It makes no sense, and I think you kind of have to understand what level some patients are at to get to them to understand something without
Yeah.
being mean, because we're
Yeah.
all very you got you got a master's, haven't you, and a dental
Yeah.
degree, so you're very highly educated, and most dentists are, so we will click onto things quite quickly, whereas other people who maybe don't have that formal education of understanding.
But you say this, but I also believe that the army were going to come down the M1 in tanks. So it's like
That's a
you
mistrust of
just have
government there,
to
isn't
have,
it?
yeah, but you just have to have one person that you trust
Mm,
that tells you something that you will believe, whether it's something that seems ridiculous, but if it's someone that you think like, oh no, they must have got this from a reputable source,
yeah.
and if it's a patient whose friend or someone they know has told them that, and then the only good thing is though, at least they've come to the dentist to talk about it and ask them if it's
Mm,
true. And with coconut oil pulling, it's probably not going to do any damage. Probably it might block your sink when you keep spitting coconut
yeah.
oil into it every single day, but it's not gonna, it's harmless in comparison to some of the other stuff that's out there. That's
Yeah.
very,
Yeah, you're right, I suppose. It's just a very interesting kind of set of affairs, I think.
yeah,
The whole fake news thing.
yeah,
And there's no real way to combat it, actually, once you really think about it. Because they're never going to trust you as much as their best friend uh,
yeah,
until
exactly.
something goes badly wrong. But even then, somehow it'll be someone else's fault, and I think that's the problem. So just kind of, okay, yeah, okay, fine, we'll fix it, and it can be my fault. Cool. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the negative side, isn't it? Um,
Hmm.
let me see.
There's lots of positives too, and I do think that like a lot of people, and again, not anything to do with dentistry, but social media gets very villainized, and it gets a very bad name for sort of it's people's highlight reels only, and it's not real life and all of this, which is, it can be quite damaging for particularly a lot of younger people that
Mm,
use it, and teenagers or people who are easily influenced into thinking like, oh, I'm not as perfect as this person or whatever it is. But at the same time, sort of censoring ourselves and only showing the highlights and the good times isn't anything new. Like if you went to a job interview and you were sort of talking about all your achievements, or if you were writing your CV, you're not going to talk about the exams you failed, or you're going to always sort of show like the best of yourself. Or if you're a company or you're trying to sell a product and you're making your company website, of course you're going to put all the best
yeah,
testimonials on. And that's not a new concept of showing only the good side of ourselves. But I think like as much as there's loads of rubbish on it as well, you can definitely use social media for good. And I wouldn't know half of the dentists I know if it wasn't for social media and getting to connect with them through different
yeah,
pages, like the Dentists of Insta page or different groups and things. There's a lot of good if you look for good ways to use it. There's
yeah,
lots of benefits to it
yeah.
too.
I think that kind of idea of putting it to the same sort of level as a job interview is really really useful way of looking at it, because who's going to put out a picture when they've just got out of bed and look absolutely terrible, and why would you force someone to do that just so someone else can feel better? It's one of those things, I think it's very difficult to police that sort of way, and probably very
Yeah,
unhelpful to try and do that. So yeah, I think especially younger people are very impressionable, but I don't know if it's my job, for example, to not post something that I think is a good photo that I've done,
exactly.
because
Yeah,
someone else might not feel great about it. And it's not my intention to make people feel bad about things. And I think I'm pretty light-hearted and calm, and chilled out about most things. But yeah, I think that's a difficulty. But I don't see that it sounds really bad that I don't say it's my problem or fault, if that makes sense.
yeah.
I don't.
And I know a lot of brands have definitely taken those, like that kind of feedback from people on board. And there's especially, you see it in a lot of like clothes websites or a lot of clothes pages, that they would use models of loads of different body
Mm,
sizes and shapes, and to make everyone feel like, there is someone here that is that looks a little bit more like you, or everyone is very represented, and it's not maybe what it used to be like in like the 90s or the early 2000s when everyone looked like Paris Hilton, and that just wasn't what everyone else looked like.
yeah, I think that's the thing, with clothes brands. That's for sure. They need to do that kind of a thing. The one, do you
Yeah.
remember that thing in the tube, the tube advert? Oh, you must have seen it, where
Which,
they were trying to sell a protein shake or something.
oh,
Do you remember it?
I remember it was, but I can't remember. I remember there was a massive like
Yeah,
controversy thing that happened, but I can't remember what exactly
So it's
it was.
some gym girl basically, and they were trying to sell protein shake, and then
Right.
people were feeling upset. And again, I'm not being mean to anyone here, so just make that clear.
Yeah.
But and they were saying, oh, it's an unrealistic this and that. You know, it's not something that people can achieve. But surely, just the picture of having someone who's in that shape is achievable. It's one of those things that
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to Samson's page, for example, just because you know him. So I'm just going to use him as an example. So sorry, Samson, if you're watching, but he's very very dedicated, and it's achievable what he's doing into get into a good level, or even Matt. So those guys are doing something that's achievable, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it because someone else might feel bad because they've got something that they haven't. Do you know that? Do you know that kind of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
two ways about it? It's a very difficult kind of situation to put in the middle of. But
Yeah.
how are you going to sell, a weight set if you have a guy who looks like he's never picked up a weight before? I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think that's really difficult. We've gone completely off dentistry here. It's just like
No, totally.
mental health.
Yeah, but I think like it's definitely like one of the big parts of social media is trying to find a balance. Like you're not going to please
Mm,
everyone, and even people who do have pages like that where they'll put up. Particularly, you'll see a lot in like the health and fitness industry. Like those people probably get a lot of hateful, spiteful comments from people, but that's not. That's probably just a lot of it is going to be jealousy.
yeah,
Like, and that's not a new thing either. Like that probably has come in all walks of life before and shown itself in different ways. Just this time it's on social media so everyone else can see it too.
yeah.
Um, but jealousy is nothing new, and negativity is certainly nothing new either. So that's always going to be there. Even if we deleted all the apps, you're still going to have it in your day to day life too. So
Yeah, it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? Because
yeah,
is it best to have it out in the open, or is it best to have it just
yeah,
swept under the rug? And it's the same thing with the whole BLM thing and all these other kinds of whatever that's going on in abuse and stuff like that. So now we can see it. At least it's kind of out there, and we know it's going on. Um, I think the fitness thing, because I was into fitness for a while, was one of the things that I kind of saw. I was just like, that's ridiculous. I had to get it off my chest. um, yeah. Um, let's see. We've gone through most of our little checklist, haven't we? I think. Um,
I think we've covered all the bases.
yeah. What's next for you? Do you think?
So foundation year starts on the 1st. So I'm very excited. I'm a bit nervous, I can't lie. Because obviously it's just been so long since we've been on clinics and
Mm,
stuff. And we're gonna have because obviously everything was cut short for our whole year in all unis. We're having a lot of our study days like towards the beginning of the year. So we're gonna have like a lot of the sort of extra training before we really get very clinical.
yeah.
But I'm looking forward to kind of getting back into dentistry because, like, over lockdown, we have finished uni, finished online tutorials, done all our exams, but that was all sort of finished up by like May time. So for all of June, July, and August, I've just not really been feeling very dental, and I definitely like I'm really excited to get back to it and it's sort of get the ball rolling
I think
again.
that's a good place to
Um,
be. It's a good kind of mental
yeah,
space.
yeah, I don't want any more time off. I've never thought I would say that, but I'm definitely excited to have a bit more like routine and sort of get back to what we do.
Yeah.
Um, but what would be your like sort of top tips for foundation year? I know probably you get asked that a lot from my year group for
Yeah.
Keen, but
Foundation year is a funny kind of time because you're kind of you're qualified, but you're almost not qualified in a way, aren't you? Um,
it's like BDS 6.
yeah. I think the big thing to do is, and this is going to again be really really controversial. Imagine you are doing this year to get as much experience as you can and to be as proficient as you can. But imagine you're going to go into a high end private job at the end of the year.
Okay.
That's kind of how I would see it, and I'm completely, again, very controversial, but I'm against kind of young dentists going into the NHS because I think it kills your skills. So you maybe
Okay.
see a lot of people talk about, and this is a bit of a roundabout way of saying, getting to your point, but hear me through. There's a lot of people who say, oh, you need to do your miles in the NHS before you can go into a better job.
Hmm.
I get what they're saying, but at the same time, I completely disagree because you've done 5 endos, let's say,
Hmm.
in uni. You're going to do another 10, 15, 20 maybe in this year if you're lucky. I think that's probably about the speed that you'll be at.
Hmm.
And then if you go into the year after and you then get an hour to do the endo and you've got lots and lots of them coming through, you're going to end up cutting corners because you're still not quite at that Karina. Obviously, you're not going to be at Karina's level, but you're not at that level of someone who's been practicing for 5 years.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of make that decision to actually spend more time on everything, which means earning less.
Yeah.
But then you have a target to meet, so it pushes you. It gives you a headache that you don't need early on, if that makes sense. Of
Yeah.
pressure of you have to do so much, otherwise you're going to have to pay back. So my advice for foundation year would be get yourself a camera. Very similar to what we spoke about last time, actually. Get yourself a camera, take pictures of absolutely everything, step by step. So then you can look at it on your laptop or a screen afterwards, and you can maybe send it to a friend who you trust, or someone, maybe a mentor that you might have. And they can tell you, actually, you've done this really well, but this was complete crap. Please change this next time. And there'll be plenty of things
Yeah.
like that. There will be. It's inevitable because you've only done a certain amount. But by doing that, that's going to accelerate your progression, as, as opposed to if you were just going in doing the work. ES comes and has a quick look and maybe spots something, maybe doesn't, because he's also got patience. In that way, I think you'll progress much faster because you're having a real kind of inquest over your work, if you like. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Definitely.
And then by the end of the year, if you've done that for everything, you should be getting to a pretty good level with polishing of composites, for example, or caries endpoints, crown prep, the way, just the shape and, all the taper and things that you need to have. And it's a good time to try things like onlays, because I think dentistry is going towards onlays as opposed to crowns. The only time that I would do a crown now is if I'm replacing an old crown, because why
Okay.
would you take away more tooth structure than you need to? Whereas if
Yeah.
you can get away with maybe just removing a little bit of height and cost and stuff there, and there's people like George are doing really really good work on that kind of stuff, aren't they? So you
Yeah.
can kind of see examples of what to do, just by going through all of his posts. So that's kind of what I would look at there. I wouldn't look to start doing Invisalign bonding and all that stuff until maybe a year after FD.
Mhm.
So kind of
Okay.
where I am now.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe not even then. I'm not sure whether I will. I might decide I'm going to do an endo MSc or masters or something. But it gives you time to understand kind of what you enjoy and what you like, giving everything a go. Um,
Did you do DCT? You didn't do DCT,
no,
did
I
you?
think
No. Would it not appeal to you?
unless you want to do the hospital route or max
Yeah.
fax, I think it's a waste of time. And again, this is my
I
this
think.
is my opinion, so please don't jump down my
Yeah.
throat. Anyone else who's been watching this, because um, I think this is probably the one area that I get quite impassioned and or whatever, is the NHS versus private debate. I do think that you've got good skills. You've come through 5 years of gold standard training, especially at King's, probably more than anywhere. So why should you throw that all away after day one because you've got 6,000 UDAs to do? I think it doesn't make sense. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's me.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to get like loads of people's feedback and perspectives on it, because obviously like a lot of people are really really certain that they want to do DCT, and a lot of people are very certain that they don't. Obviously I haven't even started
Mm.
foundation year yet, so there's a long way to go before even thinking about that kind of stuff. But at the minute, like, I don't even really know. As I said, like at the beginning, like there's nothing in dentistry that I
Dislike, yeah.
dislike enough to never want to do it again. So the idea of being a GDP is completely fine to me. I would actually probably really like that. But at the same time, I really liked oral surgery in uni.
Mm.
Um, but I don't know if I liked oral surgery because it was like one day every 2 weeks and it was a little bit different, and the nurses on that clinic were super nice, or if it was I actually really like doing extractions, or
Yeah,
you know, it's hard to know really at this
I
stage
do always
what the.
wonder whether the idea of having this target makes people feel like they want to do something that doesn't have a target, and DCT is a nice, easy option out of the NHS UDA system
Mhm.
because it's a bit more familiar. You're going back to the hospital, you've been and you had a great time in uni, in a hospital environment. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
part of it as well because honestly, I'm someone who I'm very chilled out. I think most people kind of see that about me.
Mhm.
But during that last year of doing UDAs, I didn't feel chilled out, and that's not who I was. So you're probably not going to see me go back to an NHS job once I go back to work. So that's
Yeah.
breaking news there. Um, so I've actually left that job that I was in, which was a great job, really lovely people. Everyone in the building was great, but I was coming home stressed and just going to sleep, eating and going to sleep, and that's not a way that
Yeah.
you want to live your life. I think there's probably something to be said for having dentistry as a passion, not a career. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think that's a, it's a weird way of saying it, but the difficulty comes where if you're financially kind of dependent upon the work, and then you
Yeah.
lose the love for what you're doing. I think that's obviously a very kind of an idealistic thing to say, but if you can manage it, then that's probably the best thing to do.
But I think you've spent a long enough time doing it to, at the very least, enjoy it. Like that's the very least that you could ask out of your job, is that
Yeah,
you actually enjoy it at the end of the day after spending so many years studying and so much money in your, education, courses, equipment, different things. The very least you can expect of yourself is to actually like
yeah.
your job and to want to go.
I know, I do.
um,
That's the thing.
like,
So it's just finding
I remember like back at school, like on a Sunday night,
yeah,
anytime I had like history or PE on a Monday, I was dreading it. And I was like, this is like the feeling that I don't want when I get older.
yeah,
Like, I don't know what I want to do yet. Like, this was when I was really, really young and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I did not want to feel like that going to work the next day because that was awful.
yeah. I think that's it, and you can get through NHS jobs. And this is again my opinion. I'm gonna have to keep on saying that when I say these things because it's a little bit controversial. But I enjoyed going to work, but not doing the work in that way. Like
Yeah.
I would much rather have half an hour for a checkup and an hour for a new patient exam, which is kind of the standard in a private practice, I think, because you're actually going to get to know the person and
Yeah.
understand what they want. In 15 minutes, you're having to do shortcuts like having them tick boxes on a piece of paper outside, and you just quickly go, oh, so you're interested in this, and this, and you try and work out what they're after, as well as doing the things that need to be done in a 15-minute period. And a lot of dentistry, I think, is very visual. If patients aren't seeing what's going on in their mouth, they don't really believe it. They don't even know
Mhm.
which tooth you've been working on and stuff like that. So you do need to kind of like do the best for the patient. I didn't feel like working that way was the best for the patient, um, especially perio. You've got 15 minutes to go through that really kind of rigorous routine of what they should be
Yeah.
doing on a day-to-day basis, and then you've got to look for everything else. Do an oral cancer check. You have to do, is there caries? Is there wear? Is there all these other bits and pieces that need doing? So I think just having time to educate the patient is just it's key, and probably what makes people really enjoy their work much more when people come to you happy with what you're doing, understand what you're doing, and you're probably going to get sued less if you're staying within your lane.
Yeah. Massively.
Does that answer the
I think
question?
it's
I
that.
don't know if it does or not.
Yeah, no, definitely 100%.
Rambling on for a bit there.
I
Um,
know.
Other than that, I think yeah, just enjoy it because um, you'll have the little group of other FDs and stuff, so it'll be nice and fun.
Yeah. I think it might be a bit different for us. I know a lot of our study days are all going to be on Zoom.
Oh
So I don't actually know if I'm going to meet a lot of them that much. But I'm excited to see how it all kind of pans out over the year.
yeah, I
Hopefully.
think that kind of is the long and short of it. You will find kind of things that you like and things that you don't, and just you'll you'll find things that I don't hate dentures actually. I know I keep on saying it because I think it's fun. I say things because it's funny,
Yeah.
but I prefer other things over dentures. I think that's the better way of saying it. Like,
Yeah.
um, I prefer doing an endo because I have that interest of like, oh god, can I find an MB2? So you'll find out what it is that you like, whether it's just standard, restorative, or you do like some facial aesthetics and bonding and all that stuff, which can be done really well. Just need to find your lane and find bits that really really enthuse you the most.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully get there someday.
Yeah. Guys, should we call it there? I think we've been going for quite a while, haven't we?
I think we've.
Yeah, guys, if you've been watching, thank you for joining us. Big sorry for the issues we had with the connection early on. It seems to have ironed itself out now, which is great. Make sure if you're new, you're subscribing and liking the video. Make sure you're following Erin, and you are on Instagram and also on Twitter, but I haven't seen you post much on Twitter actually. Just a few little bits here and there.
Yeah, I'm quite quiet on Twitter compared to everyone else.
I don't quite understand it, yeah. But thank you all for joining us. It's been great chatting to you. I think we'll definitely do this again sometime, and we'll get on the phone to Virgin Media and make sure it's nice and calm next time. And thank you to the sponsor for this podcast, all the guys in the Patreon group. So that's people just like you. We have a Discord chat and we just talk about dentistry and life and stuff. So if you want to join us there, head over to that, guys. And thank you to those guys because it means a lot.